was something else. It had to have been that no one ever died of being stung by a bee. Mother said she felt people lived in those woods. But don't you go too far into the woods. Not beyond where the water splits. And no, sir. Promise me. Then you can go fishing. Yes, sir, I promise. My father had carried Dan back from the West Field with the car. He had taken off his shirt and draped it over Dan's face, which had swelled into a pillow. And he was sobbing and shaking. I knew that my parents would never be happy again. Young Mark carries the burden of the loss of a brother and the silence of his parents on his shoulders. However, nothing prepares him for a terrifying encounter in the woods. The age-old battle between good and evil resurrects itself in The Man in the Black Suit by Stephen King. The sun beat down hard on my neck, hard and hot for the first quarter mile or so. But then I entered the woods where cool shadows fell and you could hear the wind hissing through the deep needle groves. I walked with my pole on my shoulder and had my tackle box in the other hand like a small suitcase. 10 minutes later, I came to the spot where my father had told me not to go, to the place where the stream split, dividing around a huge gray rock. I knew that I wasn't supposed to be there, but I felt pulled to this particular spot. Quickly, I squatted on my heels, dropped my line into the water, and almost immediately caught a fine rainbow trout. I had it cleaned out before the gills had stopped flexing, stored it in my tackle box, and dropped my line into the water. I leaned back and studied the clouds. Clouds floated by west to east, and I tried to imagine what they'd look like. Soon I drowsed off, and then a tug that was so hard almost pulled the bamboo pole out of my hand, and it brought me back into the afternoon. I clutched my pole and suddenly became aware that something was sitting on the tip of my nose. I crossed my eyes and saw a bee. My heart seemed to fall dead in my chest. I had been stung by bees before, but I had never died from a bee sting. That was only for my brother, a terrible trap that had been laid for him this very making. As I crossed my eyes until they hurt, in an effort to focus on the bee, logic did not exist. It was the bee that had existed, only that the bee that had killed my brother killed him so cruelly my father had slipped down the straps of his overalls so he could take off his shirt and cover Dan's swollen and gorged face. Now the bee had returned, and now it would kill me. As I sat there, trembling on the edge of panic, ready to bolt to my feet and then bolt anywhere, there came a report from behind me. One single clap. At that moment, the bee tumbled off my nose and fell into my lap. It lay there on my pants with its legs sticking up and its stinger a threadless black thread against the old scruff brown of corduroy. It was dead as a doornail. I saw that once. At the same moment, my pole gave another tug, the hardest yet, and I almost lost it again. I looked over my shoulder to see who had clapped. A man was standing above me at the edge of the trees. His face was very long and pale. His hair was combed tight against his skull and parted with rigorous care on the left side. And I knew right away that he was not a human being because his eyes were the orangey red of flames in a wood stove. I don't just mean the irises because he had no irises, and no pupils, and certainly no whites. His eyes were completely orange, an orange that shifted and flickered. He was on fire inside, and his eyes were like burning coals left behind in a barbecue pit. Why, it's a Fisher boy. Imagine that. Are we well met, Fisher boy? Hello, sir. The voice that came out of me did not tremble, but it did not sound like my voice either. It sounded older, like my mother's even. And all that I could think was that maybe he'd let me go if I pretended not to see what he was, if I pretended I didn't see that there were flames glowing and dancing inside, whereas I should have been. I've saved you a nasty sting, perhaps, he said. And then to my horror, he came down to the bank where I sat with bee in my lap. Even before he reached me, I recognized the aroma baking up from under the suit. The smell of burned matches, the smell of sulfur. The man in the black suit was the devil. He had walked out of the deep woods, and now he was standing here beside me. From the corner of one eye, I could see the hands. His fingers were hideously long. You didn't answer my question. Are we well met? Please don't hurt me. I whispered in a voice so low I could barely hear it. He leaned forward suddenly and smelled the burnt matches fluffing out from his suit and making me feel gaggy in my throat. He looked at me solemnly from his narrow white face and burning eyes, but there was a sense of laughter about him too. Sad news, Fisher boy. I've come with sad news. I could only look at him, the black suit, the fine black shoes, the long white fingers that ended not in nails but in talons, like a hawk. Your mother's dead. No, you lied. He smiled, the sadly patient smile of a man who has often been accused falsely. I'm afraid not. It's the same thing that happened to your brother. It was a bee. No, that's not true. And now I did begin to cry. If a bee sting could kill her the way it did Danny, she would have died a long time ago. You're a liar. I understand your grief, Fisher boy, but that particular argument just doesn't hold water, I'm afraid. A fish jumped below us. The man in the black suit frowned, then pointed a finger at it. The trout convulsed in the air, its body bending so strenuously that for a split second it appeared to be snapping on its own tail. Then it fell back into the stream. It was floating lifelessly. Your mother simply went through her life without being stung by a bee. But then, less than an hour ago, actually, one flew through the kitchen window as she was taking the bread out of the oven. You see, Fisher boy, it was your mother who had passed the fatal weakness on to your brother. You got some of it, but also you got protection from your father that poor Dan somehow missed. So, although I don't like to speak ill of the dead, it's almost a case of poetic justice, isn't it? After all, she killed your brother Dan as surely as she put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger. No, it isn't true. I assure you it is. The bee flew in the window and lit on her neck. She slapped at it before she even knew what she was doing. You're wiser than that, weren't you, Mark? And the bee stung her. She felt her throat start to close up at once. And that's what happens, to people who can't tolerate bee venom. Their throats close and they drown in the open air. That's why Dan's face was so swollen and purple. That's why your father covered it with his shirt. I stared at him, now incapable of speech. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I didn't want to believe him, but I did believe him. She made the most wonderful, awful noises as she scratched her face quite badly. Her eyes bulged out like a frog's eyes. She wept as she died. Isn't that sweet? He looked out at the stream for a moment. His face sounded thoughtful. Then he turned back to me, and an expression of bereavement disappeared from his eyes like a dream. His eyes blazed. I'm starving. I'm going to kill you and eat your guts, little Fisher boy. What do you think about that? No, I tried to say, please no, but no sound came out. He meant to do it. I saw. He really meant to do it. He reached for me again with his long pale hands, and without thinking what I was doing, I flipped open the top of my curl, pawed all the way to the bottom, brought out the fish I caught earlier, and held out to him blindly. Big fish, oh, big fish. He snatched it away from me, and I crammed it into his mouth, that opened wider than any human mouth ever could. He didn't chew, and his eyes blazing as eyes bulged out as an effort. The fish went in, and his throat bulged as it slid down his gullet. And now he began to cry tears of his own, except his tears were blood, scarlet and thick. I think it was the sight of those bloody tears that gave him back my body. I bolted to my feet and turned with my baby pole still in one hand, and fled up the bank, bending over and tearing weeds out with my free hand in an effort to get up the slope more quickly. He made a strangled, furious noise, and I looked back just as I got to the top. He was coming after me. The tail of the fish was still protruding from his mouth, and I could smell the rest of it roasting in the oven with his throat. Fisher boy, you can't get away, Fisher boy. It takes more than a mouthful of trout to fill me up. Leave me alone! I ran until I couldn't run anymore. I turned around expecting the man in the black suit to be standing right behind me. But he was gone. Yet, I sensed him somewhere near in those woods, watching me with his grass fire eyes, smelling of burned matches and roasted fish.